Week 6 is officially in the books. I am down bad at running back, so I'm looking for trade targets. I'm looking for guys that I can buy low. So in this video, we're going to be talking about some of my favorite running back trade targets after Week 6. I want to just quickly share how this research went down. I basically looked at expected fantasy points, I looked at schedules, and I looked at rest of season rankings. And I'm just looking for value, man. I'm looking for guys that we can potentially buy low that I think can turn it around. That's kind of the whole thesis here. It's really risky to buy players that are doing bad right now or performing poorly. So you're taking a lot of risk, man. You're buying guys at their basement, at their bottom value, and you're hoping they can turn it around. We're going to be starting with Chase Brown. Look, I might be the only person on both the normal internet and the dark web to be telling you to buy Chase Brown. And the picture does not look very pretty for him, man. I will just say that, dude. This is a tweet here from Chris Wecht. For the first time this season, Chase Brown only played 53% of the Bengals snaps, only had 56% of the carries. To make things worse, Samaje Perine had 75% of the inside the 10 snaps. To be fair, there weren't a lot of like goal to go snaps within the 10. So I think it was like 3-1 with Samaje to Chase Brown. And honestly, the picture doesn't get better, man. He hasn't scored more than 9 fantasy points in half PPR since week 1. He's losing snaps to a 30-year-old Samaje Perine, who's a better pass protector. I think that's kind of the reason why. And Joe Burrow is out, so this offense is just going to be struggling. I mean, shit, dude, saying all this stuff out loud is kind of rough, but, gather around. Let's listen. Let's talk about why I think that he can turn it around. Firstly, we got to start with the schedule, man. Weeks 1 to 6 was absolutely horrendous, dude. Cleveland in week 1, first against running backs. Jacksonville, 10th against running backs. Minnesota, 19th against running backs. But remember, nobody did shit on the Bengals in that week. It was like 10-48. It was a complete blowout. They were playing from behind from the beginning. Nobody did anything, including Chase, Higgins. And then Denver in week 4, 4th against running backs. Detroit, 6th against running backs. Green Bay, 5th against running backs. It has been absolutely a brutal slate of games, man. I talked about this in our Discord community that he has looked fine. Honestly, with everything considered, I really do think Chase Brown has actually looked pretty decent. He doesn't look cooked. He doesn't look like he's missing lanes. He doesn't look like he's performing poorly individually, right? It's the offensive system. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? I think most people who know ball or who actually watch the games, aren't just box score watchers, know that Chase Brown is actually doing well with the circumstances, right? And I really truly believe that in weeks 5 and 6, where we did see Chase Brown snaps under 60%, he went 53 and 54%. He still had 8 and 7 fantasy points. Honestly, it could have been a lot worse, man. Look at Quinshon Judkins, dude, in a very similar type of game script. He was even more dog shit, dude. He was cat shit, actually. He had no targets, no receptions. His yardage was down. They stopped using him. I think, like, in any hurry-up situation, it was Jerome Ford. But we're not talking about Quinshon Judkins. Samaje Perine, I really do think that the game script or the plan for this game was this. It's Joe Flacco's first game. Samaje Perine's a much better pass protector. Green Bay's one of the better rushers. And so are the Lions, man. The Lions are really good at getting pressure on the QB. I think they're like 4th or 5th in pressure and sack percent. So this is a game, man. 2 game plans in a row where Samaje Perine's snaps have been increasing over the season, but it's because of the circumstance, man. It's just an offensive line that's struggling. They need more pass protection. Looking ahead, man, looking back at Chase Brown, dude, just the schedule really lightens up quite a lot. He gets Pittsburgh next week, who are, I believe, like 19th against running backs. The Jets, not very good against running backs. Chicago. And then after the bye, they get Pittsburgh, New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, Miami. They have a really nice schedule, man. When we look at the rest of the season rankings here, we see Chase Brown at 26th, though he's still a top 30 running back. Not great. I mean, obviously, we were drafting him like the early second round, so this is shitty. Like, we're down bad at the moment. I'm not going to sit here and cap and lie and say that Chase Brown has like top 5 potential. But when we look at this column here, you see these stars. He has a good schedule, 4 out of 5 stars, and then 4 out of 5 in the playoffs as well. The schedule really lightens up, man. I already mentioned it. And if we look at the rest of the season rankings, we look at some of the running backs around him. Now, trading a running back straight up for him, just like a 1-to-1 trade, I don't really recommend that. A lot of people don't really like to do those types of trades. It's usually like 2 for 2s, 2 for 1s, 3 for 2s, stuff like that. But just like looking at kind of the value of the players around him, there's a couple of guys that I would rather have ahead of him as well as behind him, right? Like, I'd rather probably have DeAndre Swift ahead of him at this point. That's probably going to be reflected in this updated rest of the season's rankings. But when we talk about a guy like Rico Dowdle, who's coming off of 2 games where he absolutely, 400 plus combined scrimmage yards, Chuba Hubbard is coming back, and their schedule is a lot more difficult, man. They played the 2 worst teams against running backs, where Rico absolutely ate, and he didn't have a backup. He didn't have a handcuff. Like, unfortunately for Chuba Hubbard this entire season, he's had Rico kind of nipping at his toes, right? And then when Chuba goes out, Rico becomes the absolute starter, no handcuff, no backup taking touches from him or goal line work. So that's why, I think really that's why Rico was able, he was a complete workhorse. He was like in a Kyron Williams type of workload against the 2 worst defenses, right? So do you flip a guy like Rico for a guy like Chase Brown? It sounds insane, right? It sounds like such a dumb, like poor fantasy football transaction to make. But obviously the thinking isn't that you do Rico straight up for Chase Brown. It's that you get more on top of Chase Brown. You get a little bit more value. So that's how I'd kind of approach it. Someone like Tony Pollard, man, if you can move up to Chase Brown where they're both in really bad offensive situations, but Pollard has a 2-star rest of season schedule, right? Like it's going to be a really tough schedule. So that's just kind of the thesis. That's the thinking behind why I think we should be targeting Chase Brown. The schedule gets better. He's still going to be like the early down and most likely goal line running back. I don't think Samaje Perine is going to suddenly become the goal line guy. He might get a lot of snaps within the goal line or within the end zone, within like the 10-yard line. But that's when it's like third and long, second and long, right? When they're in obvious passing situations. So we hate to see that. I really do wish that Chase Brown would just be a full-on 90% of snaps guy like he used to be. And he could still get there, man. I think in better matchups where it's more of a back and forth, maybe even the Bengals play with the lead at some point, man. I don't know. All right, next we got to talk about Tyjae Spears, man. He came back from IR 2 weeks ago. He goes 4 for 14. Only 25% of snaps, but then he plays 59% of snaps in week 6, 5 for 31, gets 4 targets, 4 for 19. The Titans are atrocious. Tony Pollard himself has been not very good, man. He's had quite a lot of volume. He's been like a bona fide workhorse back thus far, but we see that, his touches are really going down. 20 touches in week 2, 16, and then 14, 14, 10. Still getting some targets, but Tony Pollard, man, 43% of snaps in week 6. They were losing the whole game. That could be why. But I just think that this is a situation where Pollard was kind of forced into a workhorse role. And they said all along they want it to be like a 1A, 1B type of situation with Spears and Pollard. And I think that this Titans team is just going to be so bad all season. They're going to be losing most games. They're going to want a guy who has more of a pass-catching profile. Their offense has been shit. Their O-line is bad. They just fired their head coach. I think there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup. This team, whoever's new, whoever the interim is, or whoever they hire, is going to end up looking at this team and they're going to say, look, we need a guy with some juice. We need to get both backs involved. And I'm not saying Pollard's going to be fully, banished to the shadow realm or anything like that. He's not even a bad player. Like, as we can see, 4.6 yards per carry in week 2 against the Rams. It's pretty good, man. 16 for 64 in week 4 against the Texans, who have a really good rush D. Pollard's been actually performing admirably considering the situation. This is not an anti-Pollard case. It's just that I think Spears, looking forward, he's more of the guy that is the scat back. He's going to be the third down back. We already saw he already out-targeted and out-produced Pollard in week 6. So he's somebody that you can just get so cheap at the moment. Like when we look at the rest of season rankings, this dude is nowhere to be found, man. He's 47th. He's after Ollie Gordon, after Blake Corum, just one spot ahead of Kareem Hunt. This makes no sense to me, man. He's a guy who's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to get at least 10 to 11 touches per game. As we saw in his second game, he already had 9 opportunities, man. That's only going to continue increasing. So when it comes to rest of season rankings, again, as I mentioned with Chase Brown, don't trade, make a 1-for-1, man. Make him like an addition to a trade. If you're going to make like a 3-for-2 trade where you can get Tyjae Spears as like a throw-in, that's kind of the way that I like to approach it, where I want to get these high upside, like handcuffs. I wouldn't call him a handcuff. I'd say he's kind of like a 1B player, which means the fact that he's 47th, like for example, man, I have Bashal Toon. I'm very high on Bashal Toon. I love him. He's one of my favorite handcuffs to own. I thought he'd have some standalone value, but it's just not materializing. I would take Tyjae Spears over Bashal Toon at this point. If I need wins, if I need points right now in my lineup, and if I'm down bad and I can't afford to wait for Bashal Toon to appear, I'd be targeting a guy like Tyjae Spears, man. If I have like a Michael Carter right now, and I don't really need Michael Carter, let's say he's sitting on my bench, I can't find a slot for him in my starting lineup, I'd flip Carter for a guy like Spears. Plus, you can probably get a piece on top of that, man. So that's kind of how I approach it. Obviously, you don't want to be giving a guy like Michael Carter to someone for free where they're going to potentially get wins. You want to compete with everyone in the league. But that's just the way I view it. You're kind of playing for the future. You're playing for a guy who is going to continue getting more and more looks. So that's why I like Tyjae Spears. Next, we got Bill, man. So the window might actually be closed on Bill already. We saw in week 5, he popped the fuck off. 14 for 111, 7.93 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. He also gets 2 for 39 in the air. I'm very high on Bill, dude. I love his potential. We saw it in week 5. Last night versus the Bears, he obviously struggled, man, but he still gets 17 touches. That's the most rushing attempts he's had on the season. 61 yards. He gets the fumble. It was raining. It was wet. Is it on him? Is it on JD5? We don't really know. But going into week 5, Bill was the number 1 ranked running back according to PFF when it comes to run grade. So he had like a 90.1 rushing grade. One of the best pure rushers in the NFL this season, according to the nerds over at PFF. They basically just like watch all the games and rank like every rush attempt and then give like a final score for every game. That's why Bill's number 1. To be fair, I do see Najee Harris on this list, so that makes me a little bit skeptical of PFF. But nevertheless, dude, Chris Rodriguez in this game tonight was banished to the Shadow Realm. He ended up getting like 0 touches. Yeah, he gets 0 snaps, 0 touches, does nothing. Jerry McNichols gets 5 opportunities, right? 4 targets, 3 for 30, 2 for 5 on the ground. So this is going to be a Jacory Croskey-Merritt backfield, man. And when we look at rest of the season rankings, dude, there are no teams with a better schedule for running backs, dude. He has 5 stars, great schedule. Playoffs is also great, 4 stars. He's ranked around guys like Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, Omarion Hampton, who's on IR. So when it comes to what types of trades we want to make for him, how do we want to construct these trades? I trade Dobbins for him straight up, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, obviously Jordan Mason, Kamara, Montgomery. I trade any of those guys straight up for Bill right now because of this offense. We have Jaden Daniels, who's a very competent rushing quarterback. Whenever you have a rushing quarterback, they always help the running backs, man. It's always a net positive for the running backs. I know they steal touchdowns every now and then, but it's usually a net positive at the end of the day. Next, we got Bucky Irving on this list. Now, this is going to be a difficult player to obtain, obviously. People know what he's capable of. They know he's like a top 6 running back when he's healthy. But this guy is someone that if you are like 5-1 and the guy who has Bucky is like, 1-5 or 2-4, that's when I would say he's probably someone you can maybe trade for. I know it's difficult. People aren't just going to give him up for nothing. They're not really even going to sell him low, right? Even though he's injured. But desperation, man. People's palms are getting sweaty this time of season. And when we look at the schedule, we see that he's likely not going to play in week 8, which means they hold him through the bye, and he probably comes back against New England. I'm not going to oversell you guys, man. It's a very simple proposition. When he's back, he's going to be a workhorse running back for a very good offense, dude. And look, man, the Buccaneers are probably one of the more exciting teams to watch. We got Baker Mayfield playing like an MVP, throwing to Bust-Out Magoo and Chingus McDingus, dude. So this is a team that I want pieces of. Rachaad White has been like a top 5 running back every game he started. When Bucky Irving's back, that's going to be all Bucky Irving, man. Maybe Rachaad White maintains a little bit of a receiving role, maybe a little bit of a change of pace back, but there's still so much meat on the bone here. When it comes to rest of season rankings, he's still the 12th ranked running back rest of the season. So if I'm like 5-1 and I'm sitting on a Javonte Williams and I can flip him for Bucky Irving, I might consider that. That one's a little bit sketchy, right? Javonte Williams has been so good every game except for this week. Derrick Henry, I'm not quite sure if I would make that trade because, Lamar Jackson comes back. The schedule is pretty decent for them. But can I move a Kenneth Walker? Can I move J.K. Dobbins plus a piece and maybe get Bucky to a dude who's struggling and just needs production this week? All right, next we got Trey Benson. Listen, the Cardinals running backs just produce, man. Whether it's Connor, Benson, DeMercado, Michael Carter, Bam Margera, it doesn't matter. Trey Benson was in the limelight for like 23 minutes and people were calling him like a top 10 running back, right? So when he returns, the question that I have to ask you guys is, do you guys believe that Michael Carter and Bam Margera are going to maintain a role? Or are they just going to be back to being like practice squad players? So that's kind of like the question that I have to ask. But unfortunately, it looks like, these 3 games on IR plus the bye, he's going to have to miss week 9 against Dallas. That would have been so nice if he would have came back against Dallas, but he's going to be back against Seattle, who they have a pretty good run defense, but it doesn't really matter for the Cardinals, man. Whether it's a good run defense or a shit run defense, running backs for the Cardinals just produce, dude. They get points. There's usually a secondary piece like a receiving back, like a DeMercado. He's probably going to continue being relevant. Maybe it's going to be Michael Carter at that point, but nevertheless, I do think Trey Benson steps right back into a full-time role as the main guy for this offense. He was actually decently explosive as well. In week 1, when he was still the backup to Connor, 8 fantasy points. Bro, as a Chase Brown owner, I'd kill to have those 8 fantasy points. 8 for 69. He was explosive, dude. He was week 2, kind of struggles on the ground, but gets 6 targets, 4 for 30. So this is a guy that has a multi-skill set. I would guess that the people who have Trey Benson are probably not like a 6-0 team. So maybe you can like buy him for really cheap. Let's look at the rest of the season rankings here. And when we look at the rest of the season rankings, I mean, he's 34th, right? Around RJ Harvey, Isaiah Pacheco, Zach Charbonnet. I'd trade Pacheco for him right now. I'd trade Pacheco for like $5 right now, right? I'd trade Zach Charbonnet for him. I'd trade Ramondre Stevenson for him. Woody Marks, man. If I can move Woody Marks for Trey Benson, I'd personally do it. I just think the Texans offense is not one that I want to trust, especially because the coaching staff did say they view Woody Marks as a receiving back because of his injury history. So those are the running backs that I would try to buy, man. I know some of them are weird. I know you guys might disagree with some of them, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have specific trades that you want some input on or just a second opinion, join the Discord community. There will be a link down below. It's a dope little growing community. We're talking ball every day. We're helping each other out with sit starts, trades. It's more of a community type approach. So it's not just me lecturing and just giving you my input only. There's a lot of sharps in the community. We're so close to 2,000 subscribers, man. If you guys can help your boy hit that 2K subs, it would mean the world to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.